Hello, and welcome to this Marq training video. In previous videos, we've navigated the platform, explored templates, and created and organized our first projects. In today's video, we'll find a recent project, open it and tour the editor, review how locks work, and finally see how to edit text and images. Let's begin. As from our previous videos, you know that the thumbnails across the center are all of our recent projects we've worked on. We can open directly from here or go to the My Projects folder to further explore any projects we have. We can select the project we want to work on and hit open. This will open a new tab in the editor where we can start to customize the project we're working on. First, we'll take a brief tour of the editor, then we'll look exactly how to edit and make changes. Two important notes before we start our tour. I'm going to lead off with the most important tool you'll find in the editor in Marq. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see this little set of binoculars called Feature Find. If we click on this tool, it's going to bring up a search bar where we can type any tool or feature we want to use in the platform. In this case, we'll look at how to swap images. We see that Marq generates a small animated arrow that will try to show us where in the editor we can find that particular tool or feature. We can mouse down from section to section and the arrow will jump, trying to show us where in the editor we can find that tool or feature. This is one of the most useful tools in the editor, whether you're a novice to the platform or a veteran with lots of experience. If we get down to the question marks, it's no longer showing us where in the editor we can find that tool, but rather we'll open a new tab in the Help Center directly to an article that talks about how to use that particular tool or feature. Again, Feature Find in the upper right-hand corner is an invaluable tool in learning to use Marq. Now, the second point I wanted to make is about locks. One of the signature features of Marq is the ability for your account owner or admins to turn on locks on any template or project that you're working on. These locks will ensure you don't go off brand or make changes that might otherwise destabilize the project you're working on. We can click in any text box, image, or shape, and if a lock appears that tells us an aspect of that particular feature is locked. If the lock is red, that aspect is fully locked. We're not able to make any changes or adjustments to it. If the lock is yellow, only certain aspects of that feature are locked, and if we mouse over the lock, we can see what those are. In this case, the style, position, and size of this text box has been locked. We can't readjust it or move it around, but we can still edit the content. At any time, we can go up to View and choose to show locking restrictions to see all of the locks that are in place on the project we're working on. We can also go back to View and turn those off. And they'll still appear when we click on any of the features we want to edit. I bring up locks because as we tour the editor, I do want to point out that your admin team has the ability to turn off access to certain aspects or features that we're going to look at. Along the left-hand side of the editor is your ability to add things to the project. We'll talk about each of these today, but we'll explore them in depth in a future video. We can already see that the page option is open, where we can add additional pages to the project we're working on. Text allows us to add text boxes to the project if that's not been locked. Shapes allows us to drag and drop shapes into the project we're working on. My Images are where we'll find any of the images we've uploaded, can upload additional images, and use those to edit the project we're working on. Stock Images will allow us to search either Bing or Unsplash. For professional grade, copyright-free images, we can use to personalize the projects we're working on. Tables will allow us to insert tables into the project. Data will only come into play if we have a data automation integration within the platform, and we'll talk about that in an advanced features video in the future. Finally, we have Smart Fields, which is the ability to insert smart fields directly into a project. Smart fields will be populated by your personal account information, and Marq will look that up each time you open up the project. Last, we have More, which is our advanced features, adding videos, scrolling text fields, and hot links. We won't dive in that today, but in a future video. Across the top, we see all of our options for editing text. If you've ever worked in a text editor before, you're likely familiar with some of these symbols: bold, italicize, underline, change font color, weight, or size. Note, If that aspect's been locked, those will remain grayed out when you click on a text box to make changes. Along the right-hand side, we see our ability to get granular and how we either adjust the page size, or if we've clicked on an image to scale to fill, crop and mask, and so on. You won't use the right-hand side very often for most pre-generated templates, but you will need to access that when swapping out images. Now we've taken a very brief tour of the editor. Let's talk about how easy it is to quickly personalize the project you're working on. We'll zoom in down here in the bottom right, and let's say that we want to swap this image out. Swapping out images is as easy as double-clicking on the image, which immediately brings up our personal image manager. We can select any of the images that we've already uploaded, choose to upload more, or use Bing or Unsplash to search for images. Today, we'll use an image we've already uploaded, and we will insert that directly into the project. Note Marq immediately drops it in and tries to center it as best it can, but we can also use the right-hand side crop and mask option to adjust the image to better fit and center it along our project. Editing text is just as easy. We can double-click in a text box. Note the text box becomes green and we see a live cursor flashing. We can now immediately begin to type, making the adjustments we'd like to that text. We can highlight it all and copy or paste over it. And we can delete it all if that's what we'd like and start from scratch. I do want to point out that Marq has dynamic saving, so as we make changes, they're saved automatically after just a few moments. If you work really quickly and try to close before it's saved, it'll warn you it needs a moment to catch up. Next to the Save button are two very important buttons, the Undo and Redo arrows. If we make a change we don't care for, we can always use the Undo button to go back, or the Redo button to repeat that change. Working through the project page by page, text box and image by image, we can quickly customize to make it look exactly as we'd like to see it. Inserting images, swapping out text, with Marq saving automatically for us. Doing this, we're able to quickly edit and customize the project we're working on and have it come out looking professional and on point. In future videos, we'll review how to export your project and cover some of our advanced features. We hope you've enjoyed today's training. Thanks, and happy creating.